Yeah, I heard you were telling John about like the technique and stances and how to place your foot in terms of the kicks. So I didn't know you used to do Taekwondo when you were younger.
Yeah, when I was at university, I did it for 3 years. I loved it. Jaden and I started roughly at the same time. And the guy who was teaching us, he was like an Olympian. So he was a silver medalist and he knew his stuff. He was very strong, very quick. And his thing was sparring. So we loved to spar. That was the whole focus of everything. But I haven't done it since years and years, 20 years maybe I haven't done it.
So it was like like you decided to take a break from it because of work, or you wanted to just refocus things a little bit, or why did you decide to stop?
I wouldn't have stopped it except that I moved countries for work. And I tried to look for classes again, but I went to a gym. My company had like free gym memberships, or they had a special deal or something, and so they were doing literally boxer size, and I think they did some kickboxing class or something. So I attempted to carry it on, but it's not the same. But I enjoyed it. I loved it. So I would have kept on going if I had the opportunity. And then it fizzles out. Then you get busy with work, you get busy with a project, or you get busy married, and you just don't do it. But you were telling me you weightlift. Or
Uh,
you used to weightlift.
that used to be my main thing. Like maybe around, started maybe 15 years old or something.
That's very young to be weightlifting, right?
Yeah, a little young. I don't know. It was just my older brother did it a lot, so it was in my periphery, and I tried it with my friend. We just got a membership, and it was kind of fun. So that was just what I did.
How long were you weightlifting?
I stopped focusing on it roughly the same time as I was moving from Iceland or shifting my focus to photography. I think the main point was I got an internship with a photographer in Iceland, and the school that I went to in Denmark required you to have a contract with the photographer. Otherwise, you couldn't get in.
Wow.
So there was like a big choice where there was a big power meetup coming up for bench press, and that was my thing, and I had to choose like, am I gonna attempt to break the record and do the meet, or am I gonna do this internship and just double down on photography, and I chose that route.
So you were on the cusp of breaking
I
records.
was just so young. I was this before, like it was 23 and younger,
Wow.
so it wasn't that insane. It's just I had the advantage of us starting young,
Does
and I was
I
light.
does Iceland have a big weightlifting? I think they have strongmen as well from Iceland, right?
Oh yeah, it's a huge thing. Like I don't know why it is. Could be like culturally,
The
but
Viking blood.
could be the Viking blood too. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, there's like a lot of those guys were in the gym when I was training.
Really?
Yes,
I suppose Iceland's so small that if anyone's famous, you're going to bump into them at some point, right? It's likely.
yes. And if you don't know someone, you probably know someone that knows that person. Like if someone is famous, if you don't know them yourself, it's kind of guaranteed you know someone that knows them directly. It's so small.
So with weightlifting, when you stopped doing it because you were getting busy with internships and that sort of thing, did you ever miss it? Did you ever think, oh, I wish I was still lifting?
I maintained it a little bit just alongside studies in Denmark. So I did it a little bit, but not to the same degree. And, and there's also something to having those guys who are like fully in, and this is like their life, to having them in your periphery, and they're also like around in the gym. It kind of sets the bar up higher. And so when you go to like just a normal gym, it's a little different. So I kind of just naturally relaxed also through that.
It's amazing how you can make the choice that you're going to do something, but it's all the peripherals that make all the difference.
It
The
make,
motivation, am I going to arrive on time? Am I actually going to put the effort in? And it's funny, especially as males, that the other guy standing there can be such a big motivation.
it just kind of lifts the bar. You just see like,
Literally.
the bar is, yeah, literally. You see just like these guys are operating at a world-class level, and you see their methods and you see how they're doing it, and you can kind of gauge the system a little bit. And so it doesn't look impossible when you're kind of around it. Whereas if you didn't see that, it might look completely impossible and you might not attempt it.
And you were actually breaking records,
No, I did
or
not.
on the cusp of
I,
breaking
I,
records, maybe.
I wanted to. I aspired to, but I didn't.
Do you find yourself in the same sort of predicament creatively, where you are in and around people who are really good at their game? And does that inspire you? Do you purposely put yourself in those sort of positions? Or are you more of a lone wolf? You're doing your own thing and you glean what you can on your journey, but you're pretty much by yourself.
It's kind of different because it's so intangible. Like, how do you say one short film is better than the other? Or, maybe the story is like amazing, but cinematography is just like, okay, or the other way around. So it's like, it's not as like clear and concise as like you lift a weight, you either lift it or you don't. It's a little different, I think.
And have you got any arenas in your life where you do have that cutthroat, black and white, where you know you're doing well, you're not doing well? Just objective.
I used to have that in BJJ, and I kind of miss that a little bit because it's so pure. There's no space for bullshit.
Yeah.
Either you're thriving or you're not.
Someone's choking you out.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of liked that purity aspect of it.
You were telling me last week that you're very competitive.
I'm trying to work on not being, because I think it's not good to be too competitive if you're working with people. It can turn toxic.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Would you put yourself in that? Would you say you're competitive as well?
I think so. I've always loved team sports. So I'm competitive on a team when I can drive the team and encourage the team, and they can spur me on. I love that. I'm not really competitive just one-on-one. Like, I would rather just bow out. One of the big issues I had with Taekwondo is we would spar and I wouldn't put full effort into every kick and every punch and every move. And my instructor would get so angry with me. He'd be like, Sean, why aren't you kicking? I'm like, I don't want to hurt the guy. And I would always be like 30%, 50% maximum of my effort because I didn't want to hurt anyone else. And it was a big mental barrier for me.
Did someone get hurt around you, or why did you put the brakes on, you think?
I think because I was the oldest of three brothers, when we would play fight or fight for real, I never put full effort in because I was the responsible brother. So I never went full force. I was always limiting my own power to protect them. And so I think that was just built into my brain. So when it came to now a competitive environment, I never put full force in. And I struggle to get beyond that. The only time I ever put effort in is when my instructor said, okay, if you don't kick him, I'm going to kick you. And I would take 2 or 3 kicks from my instructor and then think, okay, I'm just going to kick the other guy. But it was a hard mental barrier. So I'm very competitive when it's for the team. But if it's just for me, I don't care that much. I'd rather just let someone else win.
Well, that's interesting.
It's mixed up. I don't think it's the right way to be. It's just the reality of who I am. But I always admire people like yourself who are competitive. They're gonna go as hard as they can. They're gonna get the prize, and they can do that in a vacuum because they want to win. I love that. I watch documentaries and movies about that, but I'm not that way myself.
But it's kind of difficult to be that, I feel, in this space, working as a freelance, because how would you measure that? Is money the thing? Is the projects that you do the thing? Or because you always have to sacrifice a little bit. Depends on what you're doing, right? Like, how would you measure someone being like super? Is it views on YouTube? There's so many different metrics you could go by.
How do you measure your success?
I measure it by the amount of freedom that I have and how much I enjoy my just general being. Just do I want to do the thing that I'm about to do?
And do you find yourself being competitive or trying to eke out the maximum value in that metric?
I think if I'm too competitive, I might be too forceful and like enforcing my vision or pushing things my way in the larger context of a shoot or a thing. And I feel like that's kind of counterintuitive because most of the time I'm hired, I'm here as a service on someone else's half. So I should say my opinion and use my expertise, but ultimately I'm doing this for someone else. It's a service. So
So you basically turn off that component.
yeah, I don't. It's not active in what I'm doing, I would say. But it might be active internally. Like for instance, I look at a project and I feel like, things could have gone better, or things could have are not optimal in one way or the other. And then I try to look at like my side of the table. What could I do next time if I get a similar project or a similar situation? Or how can I improve it next time? For instance, a lot of the times, at least I find here in Hong Kong, people want to get as much as humanly possible out of the shoot. And sometimes that you just pulled in so many different directions that you can't really fully commit into properly doing one thing all the way,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
And I find that instead of just saying yes, like I'm very prone to do, and just going with it and trying to do my best, I need to be a little bit more vocal about like saying, we can do that, but the sacrifice could be A, B, and C. Or if we do that, then we need to be concerned about that happening. Like what's most important? How should we prioritize the shoot? So for instance, if I'm shooting, I don't want to name any direct clients or anything, but let's say if I'm shooting an art exhibition, and let's say I'm meant to do some portraits at the same time. What's more important? Is it the portraits and facilitating the portraits? Or is it the exhibition and trying to capture some interesting people and interesting moments in the composition of the exhibition? Like, where should we sacrifice, if we should sacrifice anywhere?
And you leave that up to the client?
Yes. And I feel like sometimes I'm not vocal enough about saying, I'm worried about if we're aiming to do this amount of portraits, same time as we're doing the exhibition, I'm worried that I'm not vocal enough about, or I don't have enough dialogue about what is more important. What should we prioritize?
It's funny because you are offering a service. They are paying for your time. They're paying for your expertise. And they do get to dictate what happens because they're paying for your time. If you don't want to do it, then don't take the money. But at the same time, that expertise almost requires you to give your direction and at least offer it. And so I can imagine it's difficult to voice your opinion without overriding what they want because you're serving them. But I think people who produce or know how to produce, they respect when someone gives their perspective and they respect that opinion. They also understand that if you're a producer, that if they say something different, that you're just going to follow that.
I think it also depends on who you're talking to and who you're voicing this opinion to. There might be someone overseeing the whole thing, producing the whole thing, and you might be speaking to a person at a manager level. And the manager level might be focusing on different things. They might be looking to maximize things, while as the other level, upper level, they have like more of an overview thing. So it depends also who you're talking to. But I think I should still be a little bit more better at giving my opinion, so that at least I've told my opinion, and what they've done with my opinion, if they decided to listen to it or not, it's not my, it's not, yeah.
When you do a gig, I don't know if that's the right terminology, but it's the terminology I use for everything. When you do a job or a project, do you make sure you get the person who you're responsible to? Do you make sure, okay, you might be working for company X and there's 3 people you spoke to, but do you say, okay, who am I working for? Or do you just make assumptions? Do you ever hit issues in that regard?
Yeah, there's always a little bit of issues. Like I said, this thing, let's say the owner of the company or the founder, they're really, really concentrated on quality. They want things done 100%. And then at a managerial level, they want to maximize your output, my output. How much can we get done? How quickly? So these are contradicting poles, right? So I try to just get somewhere in between, because I can't be too perfectionistic. I can't spend too much time on this thing, because then my hours just rack up and the manager is unhappy about how they look, how much money they spend on marketing while they try to stick to a budget.
It's funny, we teach, we have some tutors and I teach myself, and you're serving the kid, because that's what you're teaching them, maths or science or whatever, but actually the parent's paying. And so we've made a decision, just as a framework, we are on the parent's time. So we don't, whilst we're serving the kid and the benefit is for them, they're not the client. Mom and dad is the client. And so we try and distinguish where are our responsibilities and allegiances. And then, of course, the parent's objective is to help their kid and get them skilled or knowledged up. But we've, very early on, we decided we're serving parents. And on a few occasions, I've had a few kids, I'm sure everyone who's a student said this at some point, to their teacher, I pay your salary. And we've had a few students say that, and we've gone, no, you don't.
Is there a certain age?
Yeah, you know those teenage angsty years where they're trying to push boundaries, and often they don't want maths as a subject. They don't want to be doing maths at home. So we go, no, you don't pay us. Your mom pays us. And it's just easy to figure that out. And so it's interesting when you're doing something much more creative, there's much more variability, and there's different outcomes that different people could have that they want from that particular project. And I can imagine miscommunications, different values, different priorities could be particularly tricky. So boss man says, hey, I really want this done. This is number one. And then 2IC saying, no, I want this. I can imagine it'd be tricky.
But this is why I like to develop a long-term relationship with a client, because every project you do, both sides have a chance to optimize and adjust and make changes so things are more efficient or better next time.
Right.
So I really would prefer to have fewer regular clients rather than constantly be like, trying my luck and trying to get new clients, because there's always a risk involved and there's always miscommunication. It's just normal.
Yeah.
But to be able to build up a relationship where you build up an understanding same time, that is to me the ultimate cooperation.
I think when you're working in a team, you develop shorthand on communication techniques, and you have previous experience. How do you find that that's different with just working by yourself?
Yeah, that's the thing. Because every client requires a different kind of way of working.
And you've got no one else to fall back on. You've got no one else who has a different skill set or strength to you to be able to manage those certain things. Or you might be doing this particular task. You don't have someone else to go and say, hey, could you go manage this thing for me, or get the right communication or whatever. That must be incredibly difficult.
I find, for instance, let's say I'm out on a shoot and I'm not replying to my WhatsApp for 6 hours because I'm on someone else's time. So I shouldn't be on my phone managing my business as I'm being paid to do a project. And I find maybe no one has directly said anything, but I find that maybe some clients feel like they're not serviced properly if I don't reply quickly.
Right.
But and some clients require more help and require more communication and things than others. And yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. It's difficult to manage that.
Has it hampered your growth?
To be just my solo operation?
Well, exactly that. Like, I'm a client and I want to contact you because I need a different export, or I need a different piece of input, or I need a time on a future shoot. And now you're not answering me for 4 hours because you're on another gig. I might be irritated. Have you had that happen a lot?
No, not a lot. And honestly, it also depends on where I want to go with the business. Do I want to grow the business? Is the money the biggest aspect of it? Or am I enjoying the process? Do I want to focus on the process? Do I just want to try to find clients who I just jive with and things just intuitively work out with? I know I'm probably leaving a bunch of opportunities and optimization things on the table by just sticking to working with myself and no one else. But it's also kind of the most modular way of working. Because if I make a commitment to an assistant or an editor or whoever, I might get an opportunity. For instance, I went to Malaysia on a 6-week private security course. and did a project on that.
Wow.
And that happened relatively quick, short notice. Stuff like that I might not be able to do if I'm like hunkered down and I have like an employee, or if I get the opportunity to, go to Iceland and spend like 5 weeks there. Same thing. It's kind of not fair to that assistant or whoever I'm working with to just be kind of left to their own defenses for 6 weeks. Even if I pay the money, it's not good for a long-term thing. You're really focused on things of this nature. You have a lot of ins and outs and different people to manage and stuff like that. How is it for you, like running the business? You mentioned the kids aspect of it, and you focus on the parents. And also just thought about another question that I have about that. So when you feel like the parents are asking you to focus on the wrong things, or they have the wrong approach, and it's not necessarily the best thing for the kid, do you struggle keeping that schedule and doing that?
We have decided that we are going to serve the client. And sometimes serving the client means telling them that something they don't want to hear. So I'm not sure if you know, but in Hong Kong, the education atmosphere is very, very high level. Lots of pressure. I think we got one of the highest suicide rates for students in the world. It's very, very intense. And there's some positives to some of that, but there's a lot of negatives that come along with that intense atmosphere, because some kids don't respond well to that. And so often we'll have parents come under that pressure, and the kid isn't designed to be a math genius. They just don't have that particular ability, but the pressure's on them, so the parents then think, okay, let's get some tutors in to double down on that pressure. And the idea should be that it helps the kid, not puts more pressure on them. And so often we will be saying to parents, you don't need to come under this pressure. We'll try and alleviate the pressure without even teaching, just in a communication. And then the ideal or the motive behind us coming in to help a kid is to build their confidence, to make sure that they can win, that they're skilled, cover over any missing blocks in their knowledge that they have, and not make them get an A star, get the best mark out there. That's not our purpose. If they do get good grades, and often they do, it's a result. It's a fruit. The drive is actually make the kid feel confident, make them feel good, with real substance. But it's not just an arbitrary thing that they feel good. It's the main drive. With that, what that means is when a parent says, you need to put pressure on, we go, that's not the best way. We believe that you need to put pressure on. There have been occasions, one in particular, where I was thrown out of a house from the mum, because this kid was a beautiful kid. She was maybe 5 or 6 years old, and she had some learning difficulties, and the mom didn't want to recognize it. So she's making me drive this kid, and we've discussed this a lot, very adaptable, flexible, and I tried a few things, but this kid needed to go back 2-3 years of knowledge to build her confidence. And so as I started to do that, the mom's going, but you can't be teaching such basic stuff. You need to be pushing her, and she needs to be a year ahead. I said, well, she's not there yet. Let's build. Let's take our time and build it. Mom kept on pushing, and eventually I said, listen, I can't push the kid. It's not good for her. And the mom said, if you're not going to do what I tell you, then you get out. I said, okay, no problem. But I wasn't going to be party to putting more pressure on this beautiful kid who had some real difficulty. And that's a difficult choice. If you need money, it's very hard to do that. But I'm a big believer in, if you do what you believe, it'll work out in the end. So yeah, it's difficult sometimes. But most of the time, people appreciate when you're real and you're authentic. And if you can't do something, you say you can't do it. And then you're able to double down on what you are able to do and focus on and get good results. So yeah, overall, I'm very happy with it.
You mentioned confidence in this context. So if you have a kid who might be bright, like, doing well, like they can retain information, but you find maybe there's like some lack of confidence or something, do you then try to build that methodically? Or do you recognize some aspects that you need to go through first to be able to build the knowledge and do the actual tutoring? or
For anything that any of us are learning, you need to feel like you're winning. So if you think about photography, you think about maths, you think about any skill set, if you are measured against the greatest in that particular class, no one will ever give it a go. So you've got to make it so basic and so simple and so winnable that people get a flavor for that, whether it's a child or an adult, and they go, oh, I can do that, even though it might be the worst photo or the worst bit of algebra or whatever it is. They've got to just start. So as a teacher, you want to make your students win. So you give them a problem that they should be able to solve, and if it's too hard, you make it simpler. And then once they get that flavor and that confidence, most of the issue with not learning a new thing is just, I don't want to give it a go. I'm afraid of failing. I don't want to look like an idiot in front of my friends. That sort of mentality. It's the same for all of us. It doesn't change.
that sounds very much like what Jordan Peterson is talking about with chaos and order.
Wow.
You don't want to be too chaotic.
Yeah, yeah.
But you don't want to have too much order either. It can't be too controlled. So it's kind of the balance between these two poles, it sounds like.
And as a teacher, as a mentor, as a coach, your job is to find that balance, always pushing the boundary, but never so much that you break whoever you're training or teaching or trying to encourage. So yeah, I like that. There is a balance there. And sometimes it takes a little longer than in other times. And if a parent or whoever's involved, a manager or a director of the company you're working for, if they don't understand that there's a process in that, they just want a quick result, they're going to hamper that process. And my personal perspective is I just don't want to be a part of those sort of environments. I want to do what I can do as well as I can with the degree of freedom to deliver that in whatever style they want. But sometimes you've got to take your time. It's a journey. You've got to put building blocks in place before you get to the very thing that they want. And then if you can put foundations in place, by the time you get there, it just clicks. It's just obvious. But if you have gaps in your knowledge or gaps in your skill set or gaps in your strength, we were just doing weightlifting, even if you got that end result that you're looking for, it's going to damage you in some other way. So I'm a big believer in building that confidence, and I like that, finding that balance in chaos and order. And then as you progress, you'll eventually get to the result.
Yeah, I would imagine, you see this in some sports. Some athletes are just incredibly gifted. So gifted that they don't really need to put that much work or effort into it compared to others.
Yeah.
And I find that, or it looks like from the outside looking in, that a good work ethic can, with time, override talent. Is there any merit to that in terms of like what you've seen through kids going through years and developing?
100%, absolutely. I think I personally was a very lazy student. I don't know about you at school, but I was so lazy, and I got okay grades because I was lazy. But I had the intelligence in some areas, not every area. But I never got outstanding results because I never applied myself. And there were some kids of average intelligence who I could, with a little bit of effort, just wipe the floor with them. But they got consistently great results because they worked their asses off. And I think that's much more admirable. And when you get to the high echelons of whatever competition environment that you're in, everyone's talented. And so now it's about what you're going to do with your talent. And that seems to me to be just hard work, days in the gym, days in the maths class or whatever it is. I think of Conor McGregor for the UFC. He was and still is incredibly talented. He's got a wonderful left hand. He's very athletic. He's got a high IQ, fight IQ. He's brilliant, really. And some of the things he's done has been amazing. Mm-hmm. But he hasn't been consistent.
I think the level of distractions coming with his fame and with his success, it's probably very difficult to stay on track, to stick to that work ethic and routine that got him to this place.
That's right.
Because he was like at one point one of the highest paying athletes in 1 year.
Yeah, of any sport.
Yeah. And that is absolutely incredible. I mean, the way that they treated him, like now they don't
like
want
royalty.
Francis Ngannou to box, but Connor could do anything.
Yeah.
He was that big of an entity. He was a huge chunk of the UFC. It feels like the way they treated him.
Yeah.
And he knew it. And I can imagine that ego that comes along with that reality. It might not be beneficial, or it might do something to you. Your work ethic, potentially.
I think so. I noticed him with the first fight that he did with Nate, where he lost. He was so much. He's always got bravado, and we all love that about him. Some people hate that, but they actually love to hate him for that. So I think it's great. But there was something off that it was all bravado. And I liked his work ethic when he came back for the second one. He cut out those distractions, exactly what you're saying. And he didn't do a lot of media, and he just focused in. And I really liked that about him. And he fought with the same weight category and the same restrictions and all the rest because he wanted to prove himself that he knew he could do it. And the first time he didn't. And I think there's something undeniable about that work ethic. Put the time in. That, I mean, he could have been the greatest. He might still be the greatest. He's got so much skill and talent. And he's got such a brilliant, big personality. But imagine the last 3-4 years. He kept on winning. He kept on building championships. It would be a different story where he's a little bit shaded right now. So yeah, I'm a big believer in putting the work in. I don't have any particular talent in any direction. And so I'd be stupid to believe it was just talent.
No, but you're very determined. Like we don't know each other super well, but like what I know of you is that when you put your sights on something and when you decide something, you lean in heavy and you just go for it.
What are you trying to say? We're leaning heavy.
We're both working on that. We did the first workout today.
We did indeed.
How did it feel?
I didn't feel particularly exercised, but I'm really glad that I didn't, because I've tried this so many times, and then the first workout or the first week, I hurt myself, and then I lose that energy, that momentum. So by design, I didn't do much today. And I like the idea of having a space, and then you can get more efficient at using the space. So for me today, personally, it was a huge win, because I didn't have a high expectation outside of using that hour to dedicate it to getting fit. So I'm ecstatic. I'm really, really happy about it.
I'm super happy that we started this too. I've really wanted to get back in shape for forever. It's just, you lose momentum when the gyms get closed, and it's so difficult to start again. But once you're going, once you have the routine established, it doesn't feel like work. It's just normal. You're just doing it. You're not deciding to do it. You're just doing it.
It's like me with McDonald's. I didn't make the decision. No, the habit is powerful. So I know we spoke about this, but I'll share it for the podcast. I woke up 3 mornings ago, and just thought I need to lose weight. I have to, I don't want to hit 40, because I think we're both 40, we discovered.
Next year, yes.
So next year we'll be hitting 40. And I thought, I've been fat most of my 30s. I don't want to be fat. It's not about fat. I don't care about what it looks like. It's the feeling, and it's that unhealthiness. And I got Sammy, he's 2.5 now. He's getting bigger. And I'm like, he's going to start running around. He's kicking a football with both feet. It's amazing. I'm so impressed by this little guy. So I'm like, I don't want to be out of breath playing with my boy. It's ridiculous. And I have every excuse to be healthy. So 2 mornings ago, I've put a target in place, 28 kgs in 32 weeks. So it's roughly a kg a week.
That's an amazing goal, man. So you also know how it feels like to be in shape, because you used to be in really great shape.
Used to be, yeah.
So after the Taekwondo, how did you stay in shape, and how did you?
Taekwondo, and we were fit, very fit. I always ran at school. I used to run barefoot we used to basically sprint 3.5, 4 Ks every day. Because we had like a club thing we were doing. So I loved that. And then I had a gym membership. I was in the gym every single morning when I first started in my banking job. And then from there, it sort of fizzled out. When I came to Hong Kong, I played a little bit of rugby and went run. I used to run 10Ks 3 or 4 times a week when I first came to Hong Kong. And then once I got married, that was downhill from there. We just got fat together and we ate. And in particular, the last 3 years, it's got even worse. So all the excuses that are cheap and easy excuses, but I know what it's like to be fit. I know what it's like to be strong and healthy and eat well, have clear mentals. You don't have that 2 o'clock brain fog where you can find numbers, dates, names. You can make decisions clearly. Often I find myself a little groggy and I'm like, I have to get back to that because it's not there easily. So I'm so looking forward to getting back to that.
I find also like my confidence is boosted and my energy levels on top of that. When you're in shape, it's easier to get things done and start doing things and just doing. I really miss that aspect. I really want to get in shape for that reason. Just to be more active and just not questioning everything and overanalyzing and just, fiddling and messing around, just pulling the trigger, doing stuff. I find that being in shape really helps with that for me.
There's a mental muscle that also that you can strengthen that overcomes that, I don't want to. When you putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, whether it be jiu-jitsu or weights or whatever, getting up early or staying up late. I'm glad we're not getting up early for this, by the way. There's a strength that you just exercise. And if you get so used to just sitting on the couch, eating dinner on the couch, which often we do, and watching Netflix or whatever on YouTube, it's just so easy to get. Then even the littlest thing becomes a bigger boundary.
Right.
So,
you're just regularly doing difficult things. So adding one more difficult thing or challenging thing isn't that much of a big deal.
Yeah. And then it becomes a habit. So even if you have the energy or the resources to do it, you don't, because now that's momentum. So we've decided 1 o'clock, Monday to Thursday every day. We've got the space. We're going to use it. And I think obviously there'll be anomalies and there'll be meetings and things. But I'm so excited about just having that in the calendar, verbalizing it to you and to Jaden and John and Seamus. Having it out there is so powerful. Because now Monday's going to come at 1 o'clock. Unless I have a really good excuse like $1 million meeting or something, or I've broken my leg, I'm going to be there on Monday.
And this is also for you. You're kind of trapped because you work here. You can't escape it.
Yeah, it's true. But that's by design, right?
Perfect.
That's by design. So I'm really, really excited about it. So whilst today wasn't the biggest workout, it was a start. It was the space.
That's the thing. I think it was also a very good idea to start at the end of the week or towards the end of the week so that you can recover and not be completely demolished trying to do a workout and just lose momentum.
I didn't think about it. That wasn't by design. That was accidental, right? But it's a good point.
Because I know I definitely did more than I should have done, and I know I'm going to be reaping the consequences the whole weekend.
Yeah, you were picking up some heavy weights there.
I'm an ass. It's just so difficult to manage myself.
I was watching you. I was talking to Jay and I was saying, EG is really competitive. And I know you've been saying it, but I haven't seen it. But because John is there with you and you're both picking up weights, I'm like, okay, there's the competitive nature. There it is. Very funny.
But it's such a not good idea to listen to that because I'm just going to injure myself. What am I doing? I'm doing it for myself. Like what am I, 14? It's kind of ridiculous. But at the same time, it's just part of me.
So what's the goal for you? Is it just to feel fit? Do you want to get a certain strength level?
No, just to feel fit.
Okay.
And I wanted, I've done 3 times a week, the gym, and sometimes you only manage to do it 2 times.
Okay.
I would rather do something daily and shorter, like less, because I used to train in Kowloon Bay, and it took me like 45 minutes to get there. And then when you're there with your friend, and then you do a lunch at the same time. It's a 3-hour plus thing. It's such a time commitment. It's just not sustainable if you're very busy in working capacity. So this year is absolutely perfect. I really want to come up with a sustainable. I'm so happy that you have such a long-term good goal. That I'm all about sustainability. I want to make this something that just keeps happening. I want to keep doing this.
I think the reason there's just so many stars that have aligned regarding this space that we can use. But having it here at the office, doing it at midday, because a big thing for me is I like to sleep, and I don't get to sleep often because we've got a young boy. So even if I sleep in, it's not proper sleep. So I'm not going to get up early, and I know that. I just know that. Now I could, but I'm not going to do it. So if I said, okay, I'm going to get up extra early every morning and work out, I'm not going to do that. The first cold day, the first little ache, the first big pressure at work or whatever, I'm going to, but having it at 1 p.m. just works with our natural rhythms. I think it's going to work out really well. We'll see. Looking at the camera now, maybe in 40 weeks or 38 weeks or whatever it is, 32 weeks, if I'm still fat, I'm going to be so upset with myself.
Should we add some pressure? Should we do some before and after pictures? Some awkward before and after stuff?
You're going to have to put a wide angle on the on the lens to get my stomach in. I hate having a stomach so much. It is terrible. I just feel it. I feel it the whole time. I feel uncomfortable.
But you seem to have relatively healthy eating habits. You have one meal a day.
But it's a big ass meal. It's a big meal, and then when I cheat like crazy. So it was Bonnie's 18th birthday being in Hong Kong on Tuesday, and so we ordered 3 pizzas. We ordered donuts. I don't even like donuts, but I ate donuts. We had chips. It was crazy. So I sort of lose a little bit, and then when I cheat, I put on more than I lost, and then lose a little bit.
I see.
But if you took a snapshot of today, because I haven't eaten today, and then stretch that out over 6 months, I'd be very healthy. But when I cheat, I cheat badly.
Are you going to be like super hardcore, or are you going to build in some leniency? Are you going to build in some cheating into the program, or how are you looking at this?
I don't do well unless it's difficult, like unless it's hardcore. If it's medium, I'm not going to apply myself. So I'm going to be doing 1 meal a day. I'm going to be doing keto, like high fat, no carbs. And I will cheat on this Sunday because of Father's Day. I will cheat maybe 3 more times in the year because it'll be birthdays for family.
Wow.
And I'll probably try not to cheat. Otherwise, I'm just going to go hardcore.
No, I was surprised. Like, I invited you that like tiny little sugar piece of candy, and you declined it. Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, I have no problem not eating sugar. I don't care for sweet things. If you offered me a slice of pizza or a burger, that'd be tough. That's my weakness. Pizza. I used to work in a pizza shop. It was my first job. 6 years. It was the best job I ever had. It was so great.
What did you do? Were you making pizzas?
Everything. Mostly making pizza and, on the phone and all of that sort of stuff. It was just a small little country town pizza shop. But the best part of the job was you'd get a pizza every day, every time you worked. So I love pizza. But you can do keto versions and that sort of stuff. So I'm going to be hardcore. A kg a week is a lot of weight to lose. It's not going to be a walk in the park.
It might happen quickly also in the beginning, and then you might hit a tough spot where your body is like, what's happening? We need to hold on to the energy here.
Yeah.
We're freaking out. And so, yeah, I think if you make it just like a habit, like you obviously have just made a decision, no sugar, no carbs. You're just going to be like hardcore and only on a few occasions cheat.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're on the right track.
Yeah, my worry is I wonder if that sort of ketogenic, like low carb, I don't know, because ketogenic is high fat. You have to be eating like 70% of your calories of fat to be fat. I wonder if over time that has less effect. I'm not sure, because when I first did keto, I lost 22 kgs in as many weeks. And there was a gap in between, and I still lost 22 kgs that year.
Wow.
So now it's not as effective. And it could be because I'll have coffee with milk in it. And maybe I'm drinking too much milk. And there is sugar in milk. So it could be those sort of little factors. It could also be that keto loses effect over time. I'm not sure. Because usually when you read up on keto online, it's usually an introduction. It's not some sort of long-term thing. At least what I've read.
But it can take like the body some time to get into that. Is it called ketosis?
Yes.
That state. So yeah, maybe the milk is knocking you out of that state or something.
Maybe that's exactly it. So the times that I've stopped drinking milky coffees, it's helped a lot. It's actually made it effective. It's like turned it on again. So maybe it's little factors like that. And then also very short eating window. So if the times that I've lost the most weight, you eat one meal and you have nothing else except water outside of that half an hour. And that works the best. But the problem is not sustainable. You can do it for 10 weeks or 13 weeks, and then you're just craving anything.
Was that what happened after you lost the 22 kgs? You just like pushed it so far that like you decided, okay, I achieved this, now I need some reward, and you just picked up all the bad habits again.
Exactly.
Right.
All the things I was depriving myself of, I went and ate within the first week, and then I just didn't stop. And then I think within 2 weeks I'd put on 10 kgs, which is a crazy amount of weight. Crazy.
But I think there's something to like the way that fat cells are. As you gain weight, you add fat cells, and
Yes.
as you lose weight, they shrink. You don't lose them. So you might have the same amount of fat cells, but they're just smaller.
I've
So
heard
that's
that.
why it's very, very easy to gain weight back again. At least it is for me too. I've really noticed that.
Yeah, you're really fat.
No, but the weight that I have gained, I can gain it like
Quickly.
immediately again.
Yeah, people talk about age, but it could be that. I don't know. It could be that. I've heard that many times, that you have those fat cells. Maybe I should just get liposuction.
No.
So we'll see. In 32 weeks' time, we'll see. I'm inspired, at least at this point in time. And because I verbalized it and now verbalized it on a podcast, maybe that was a mistake. But to you guys as well. We should go in the direction. And you know what? Even if I hit half the target, which would be 14 kgs, that's still a monster amount of weight to lose. So
I might do a before picture of myself, just to add pressure, or also just to have something more to strive for.
okay.
Because I know how it feels once you see the difference, and once you feel the difference in maybe a few weeks' time or a few months' time. And to see that picture and see how far you've come along, I know having that like bottom point that I'm at right now is gonna be a motivating thing to I wanna make the difference even more.
Right.
So I'm gonna do that
You're
for
gonna do it?
myself. So I'm just saying,
I will
if
do it.
you're interested to doing it, we don't have to publish it or anything, but it is a cool thing to motivate yourself.
We don't have a PO box. We don't have a place for fan mail, right? Because some people would love this sort of physique. No. You're right. I weigh myself every morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I've tracked the last 4 or 5 years of my weight, so I can see the graphs, which is very depressing. So I think that's been my main metric. And everyone says don't measure weight, but for me it's been a good way to measure it. Then I feel it in my clothes, particularly my shorts and jeans. But then, there's times we've done before and afters, and it's useful. It's good to do it with other people, though. That's why I'm so excited. There's a few of us doing the weights and working out.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I'm looking forward to it.
We can go over John was talking about downstairs, like what sort of a plan or schedule we come up with. We can just organically figure that out as we come along. Like next week is probably going to be we're just starting out. We need to acclimatize to it physically.
I really like the idea of just taking a first step. Make it simple. Just get there. Just get there. When we started our first business here in Hong Kong, I advertised a class, and I thought everyone would join, and it was going to be free, and I got materials prepared, and I expected 20 students, and nobody turned up, not one. And we had put up banners, and we had gone through a lottery system to get a hall that we could hire and all of this stuff. And after 5 minutes, realizing no one was going to turn up, Bonnie said, okay, should we pack up and go home? I said, no, we booked this place for an hour. That's what we said we were going to do. We're going to stay for the hour. And so even though the place was empty and no one turned up, I treated it as like a flag in the sand moment for my own life and for the business, because it was a win for me that we were in the space. So even though we didn't fill the space itself was a win. And the next week, one person turned up. And that person turned out to be a great student and had connections and all the rest. Great things happened from it. But if I'd quit on the space, even though no one turned up, I would have not come for the second week. Because why would they come to the second and not the first? But because I had said, no, this is the space, that one student that came then built into other things. And so I'm a big believer in just create the space first. That's the first step. Just get to the space. Then when you get to the space, become efficient, put programs, schedules, get better at it. But at least you're there.
I think that determination that you had at that point, just pushing through, even though it would make sense not to do it and just leave.
Yeah.
I think that determination is probably the most important factors in any facet of success. Because otherwise, if you have success and you don't have the determination to push through tough stuff, you're just lucky.
Wow. Yeah, you're subject to luck. Wow.
I mean, I really think so. Because otherwise, everyone would be doing it and it would be easy. There is a filter where like a lot of people fall off, where if you want to succeed in it, you need to have that extra determination to push through where other people fall off.
Yeah. I agree. And I think if I look at the negatives of my life, one of them being fitness and weight, the reason I'm losing in those arenas is because I don't show up. It's because I don't have the determination applied in that direction. And it's not like I don't have the resources. It's not like we don't have the literal space with the equipment and everything's there. So it's got nothing to do with external factors. It's got everything to do with, am I willing to show up or not? So I really like that. Determination is the factor.
I remember struggling a little bit with my weightlifting because I had an amazing training partner. And that's part of the success, because we would really hold each other accountable and we would really not lose out a training session at all. And we would this was kind of a lifestyle. But when I moved away from Iceland and when I moved out, it was just me, and it was very, very different. It was not the same.
Did he carry on?
Yes, he's a judoka, so he's competed in 3 Olympics.
Wow.
Yeah, he's still doing it today.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's who you were lifting with?
Yeah, I mean, he's way bigger and way stronger. He's like 197 centimeters, and at the time he was like 110 kilos. I was maybe 75 or something.
Wow.
At the height of his career, I think he was 142 kilos.
Wow.
He's a giant man. Like, I had no business, and I was not moving close to his weights. But
that was the atmosphere you were in.
yes.
That's powerful, eh?
And I think that really pushed me and pulled me like way further than I would have otherwise.
So we're talking about 2 different things here. We're talking about, one is determination, just that willpower, that choice to show up. But then we're also talking about the environmental factors and the atmosphere you put yourself in and the people you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And those are 2 independent variables. Because one is just my choice with, even if everything else says no, you're going to try and say yes. And this thing is everything else that you put yourself in. It's like you need both of those elements.
Yes.
You really do need both. And I think sometimes people make it difficult for themselves to be successful because they don't realize the value of those external factors. And they just go, it's all me and my willpower.
Yeah.
And then, but you've got to manicure your environment. You've got to manage it. You've got to work it. Sometimes you're going to move things out of it and other things in. And at the same time, you can be in the perfect environment. But if you don't make the good choice to show up or be determined or follow through, honor your word, it can be just as unsuccessful. You need both of those things.
Absolutely. And I mean, you designed your weight loss challenge in a way that we're all training together. So it's less chance of things going wrong because you would have to explain it to us if you don't show up.
Yeah.
If you just did it on your own, it would be a little bit easier. Like, I'm going to take off a day today. I'm tired. I have those conversations with myself. So I know it's the inner dialogue of everyone, right?
I do it all the time. So that's good. I'm excited about it.
Me too.
It's going to be very good. How are we doing for time? I know your alarm would go off, but
We're close. It's okay.
Close. I'm happy to call it if you want to call it.
Sure, we can have a short one today. It's totally
Yeah.
fine. You're feeling a little flat after the training?
Can I be really honest with you?
Please.
I feel contrived. I feel like we're talking and I feel like I'm on camera. And I'm in my head going, stop being on camera, just talk naturally. And I'm not. And I'm like, I can't get out of that tone even. How do you feel?
Maybe I just feel, I personally just feel a little flat just from maybe the gym session or something. I don't know.
It's not even that I'm conscious. It's just I don't feel like I get out. Maybe it's flat. I can't get out of that rut. Like I feel like we're interviewing each other, or I feel like I'm interviewing you.
Whereas like it has been more of a conversational thing in the past. Yeah, you're right.
I don't feel like no, it's not you. It's me. I don't feel like I'm talking to you.
We're also like repeating some of the stuff that we already talked about yesterday, or we talked a long time yesterday. And
exactly. So my brain's like, have we talked about this on the podcast? Should we talk? I'm like, I don't feel fake because we're not fake, but I feel like it's not authentic.
I hear you.
That's what
I hear you.